Hello and welcome to the skating lesson. I'm Dave Lees.
And I'm Jonathan Meyer. Hi, Dave.
Hi, Jonathan. It is Pollen Sunday.
I know. I like my allergies here. It's beautiful to be out in nature, but it's also wreaking havoc with my face.
Well, I'm getting over a bug. So we were off last week for Mother's Day, and we are back here. Although, yeah, I've been down for the count. I've been watching a lot of TV and not being very good at being a sick person. So
that makes sense, Dave. Yeah.
I'm caught up on TV, reading a lot of books, like all sorts of things. Well, this is this and that. We're going to be discussing everything going on in the figure skating world. So if you're new here, please subscribe below and smash that like button. Jonathan, I don't know about you, but I woke up to the news about Aliona Kostornaia being engaged to Georgy Kunitsa, and I felt protective in a weird way. I just felt like,
and with some sassy captions. She was really letting the press have it. It seemed in that post.
Sassy caption. So I didn't know any of this. Aliona Kostornaia is engaged to Georgy Kunitsa, who she has been skating pairs with for the last several months. It seems like this is a girl who has gone through a lot of trauma in her life over the last 4 or 5 years, tons of changes, abusive coaching up the wazoo. Take your pick. Bless you, Jonathan.
I know.
And bless you, Aliona Kostornaia. I worry about her the same way I worry the same thing about Simone Biles, though, getting married so young after such big career changes and things going on in her life. Larry Nassar, everything. I just feel it's a lot for these young women to be adjusting to. They're dealing with fame. They're all sorts of things. So yeah, I saw that, but you said sassy comments. I didn't realize that Georgy Kunitsa dated Ekaterina Kurakova. And apparently they had matching tattoos. So she congratulated them in a very sassy way with the tattoo, with the viewer pointed out. Her comment is still there on the post.
Oh,
you know what? We always talk about these skaters who compete for other countries, and she may represent Poland, but she is Russian. Okay, that was a comment for the ages. Yes. And thank you to our viewers. You know, a lot of times people point that stuff out and I'm like, that was funny. That was just okay.
Yeah, I mean,
Jonathan, they have matching infinity tattoos. Sorry, I don't know if I made that point. Not matching infinity tattoos. Yeah.
That's tough. Well, and again, just embarking on a new hair journey at the same time, that's a big ask. But
and you know, people say, and it's very unlikely that we would even see them at test skates because they're not that high qualified or highly ranked yet. So I think when they don't get invited to the test skates, I think people will react dramatically, and it might be a mini invented controversy for, I don't know, the Russian blogs or something like that, but they would have to qualify through the Russian Cups and things like that this season. And they have a long way to go. They did do a triple twist off the ice. We just have to remember that, you know, in the US, if Danny can get a girl to do a throw double, they get to go to the Worlds. In Russia,
won't cut it.
Kostornaia and Kunitsa might be 20th best, 10th best, right, at a certain point. So they have a long road ahead of them.
And sadly, it took away any hope, that interview they did, in hopes that they might train with Moskvina. But it was clear that that's not where they're going to be.
What did they say? Wait, what did I miss?
There was in one of the FS gossip articles, they were
those are translations, so yes.
So always understand.
I always wish, I know their names are so ubiquitous now, but I always think it's called FS gossips, right? So inevitably, when you share one of their translations, people are like, oh, it's the gossips, you know. However, they're really the best quality translations that you will see of the Russian articles. So
agreed. Wait, I'm gonna pull it up here. They were basically just talking about even though Moskvina doesn't yell, she can be the meanest because she's going to say it calmly. And then sharing stories about.
Because Georgy is from Moskvina. Yeah. Well,
yeah, you know what? I'm going to let you look it up because it's pretty shocking. Yeah. They really went there. And it is clear when we kind of got excited at the prospect, maybe they would work there. It is clear from the comments and stories shared here that they are not interested in that.
And it's funny because Eteri actually has another pair coach joining her program with another team, not at the same level of Boykova and Kozlovsky, but a lot of moves are happening in Russia. And before we move on to the rest of the world, I want to make clear why we're talking about it is because the ISU actually released quotas for the Junior Grand Prix, and they gave Russia preliminary quotas if they would be allowed. And I think that's really interesting because they haven't had the Congress. It's supposed to be that they would decide on this in either June or October. Now, if they decide in June, that would give them the opportunity to be back for the Grand Prix in the fall. If it's October, that would really be for the Europeans in the world. It's kind of like the second half of the season. Interesting because it just seems like the ISU all along has banned Russia, but they don't seem to be against Russia, right? They seem to be playing along with the powers that be while not taking a personal stance or a stance as an institution. I think we can see that how they have maybe not really gone against Kamila Valieva in the doping scandal. I think if we look back to how long Aliona Kostornaia was suspended for, and you could, look back to the ice dancer who was suspended only for Worlds in 2016, who actually took meldonium, as opposed to Aliona Kostornaia, who helped someone shield performance-enhancing drugs, right? So just interesting when you look at the punishment. There are many high-ranking officials with ties to Russia in the ISU.
Didn't they even just release an article about a Kenyan runner who was suspended for
Tazadine?
Yeah, exactly.
And Phil Hirsch tweeted if anyone thought that this was accidental. And it's interesting because if you follow other sports, people that are just in sports silos don't necessarily do a lot of critical thinking about, and they don't realize, right? So when Kostornaia takes trimetazidine, right? And we see that Russia was obsessed with Simone Biles, and all of a sudden their gymnasts started doing better and actually won the gold at the last Team World Championships, and Simone did a Yurchenko double pike. Recently, a Russian gymnast who has a stature and a body type nothing like Simone's, who did this unbelievable skill that was very unique, like a Tanya Harding type physical feat, right? And then a gymnast is saying, oh, she's going to be doing this move. And these are all signs that things aren't really correct, right? So there are all sorts of doping implications. The lab in Russia that there was a whole fight with WADA in Russia over the lab results in Moscow, and things were deleted from a database and whatnot. There's now investigated, and there have been 200 sanctions issued to Russian athletes from this WADA investigation. We don't know which athletes those are. It's from 2019 and prior. So, this is already, it seems like lifetimes ago in figure skating, but not that long ago, but you can imagine, which athletes could be implicated by that. But you could see how this goes back. There was a gymnast who tore his Achilles and was in the Olympics in under 3 months, which is just, you don't understand how amount of time. And the gymnastics fans don't seem to hammer on the Russians about doping. They will, all sorts of other kinds of abuse they will go after, but not every sport has connected the dots and don't really understand what state-sponsored mean. In the same way that I think figure skating, a lot of people, when we would talk about doping in Russia, would think that we were making things up or crazy or whatnot. And I think there's just a very uneven understanding of what doping means in sports beyond just traditional steroid use. So anyway, I'm very interested to see 200 names, what that could mean statistically in other sports. I mean, maybe one or two skaters, one or two, that got caught.
Are they releasing those names?
I think eventually you will hear, but you don't know, because eventually how this stuff happens, many of those skaters could be retired. But I think if you were to see results get nullified and so on and so forth. But before Russia comes back, there are all of these things that need to get taken care of. The Valieva case doesn't even go before the CIS until August at the beginning. And that's just for hearings before there'd be a decision made. So if you think about it, let's say that the ISU allowed Russia back, they could be allowed back before that Valyeva case is ever even decided.
Right.
So I don't think that they're going to allow Russia on the Grand Prix, although they are making provisions if they were to be allowed. But I think it's unlikely based on what's happening with other federations that figure skating would be able to move forward with that. But they don't seem opposed. You know, they invited Lukernik as an honored guest. So
nuts. Yeah.
But I think within Russia, you know, moves are being made. Like a lot of ice dancers are training together with Julien. Now he has 3 or 4 top teams. And then we saw that a couple of weeks ago, we talked about Dario Chirizano, who is a Russian ice dancer with a Czech partner. They were training with Marie-France, and Russia now decided they don't want him to be able to go. They invested too much money in him, which is funny because Tatiana Tarasova said, we won't miss him. They didn't care. They didn't do anything.
Yeah.
But
well,
now,
also in just speaking to how state-sponsored all of their athletics are, that they feel that the federation is too financially invested in a skater to release them. Again, that's just not how that would work in other countries.
Well, it is and it isn't, right? Because remember, Diana Stellato didn't get released by the US to be able to go to Canada. And
that's because they felt they had invested in her?
Yes.
Oh.
And they used the fact that she won a bronze medal out of 4 continents in an Olympic year. Now, you know how weakened a 4 continents is in a regular discipline. Think about pairs in an Olympic year. Tara and Danny won that championship, right? They acted like she was too invested. And when you try to leave the US Federation now, because they try to crack down on this, you have to pay back like every cent they ever invested in you, or wait out the time. So someone like Deanna, if she went to a competition when she was a novice in the year 2000, they're going to charge you for that hotel room and so on and so forth. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So what happens is that these federations will settle or make deals with one another, but in certain cases, yeah, they don't care.
Goodness.
Because remember when Aliona and Bruno were trying to team up, like the French Federation was holding out. I mean, those are the kinds of things that go on. So, yeah.
I mean, to me, you're making an investment in the moment. Yes, with hopes that it will pay off in the future, but to like backdate hotel room charges from competitions and things like that, that's a little.
Oh, that happens in you. Yes. If you.
That's terrible.
Yeah, I mean, it's excessive, but I think in the Russian case, I think the fact that he wanted to go to Montreal is a reason to hold him back. I think there are 2 things to think about here. One, it's Montreal, which has a lot of success and power. And you could just tell how obsessed the Russian blogs are with Montreal. And I think you know that that will be a potentially successful team, which could be potentially embarrassing to a federation, right? And then you have the stakes of that if he is going, what are they going to do about Annabelle Morozov and Igor Eremenko? And then what are they going to do about Diana Davis and Gleb Smokin? Because if they don't allow him to leave, it's more unlikely for Annabelle, even if she has dual citizenship, the same way Diana has. Well, they already have citizenship, so Dario doesn't necessarily. So who knows, but it definitely, it feels like the noose is tightening, right, on these other partnerships. So I think a lot to come, especially because ice dance really fell off in Russia last season. There was a lot of talk about how weak they were. So yeah, but they're not standing still.
Decisions will come to light after the decision is made in June about whether or not they're competing. Do you think the holdout?
Who knows what's going to happen with this war, right? And who knows how long the sports are going to hold on for the war. I mean, obviously, the Ukrainians are very mobilized and very adamant about not to allow Russians back. Then you have to look at the sports community as a whole. If it comes down to funding and financing, there are other pressures to allow the Russians back. I think if the Russians were actually suspended for doping, this would be a much easier case. They're not. They're suspended for the war. Although a lot of figure skating fans are completely against Russia and are tuned off more because of the doping, and then you add the war on top of it. In gymnastics, they don't necessarily have the doping situation, so maybe they're angered about the war, they may be more likely to be accepting of Russians back. But I think if you see gymnastics allow Russians back, then you would see others back. I think once the bigger federations start allowing Russia back, you'll start to see it more and more and more. But it'll be like dominoes, unfortunately. Or fortunately, depending on your view on it. But yeah, I think already seeing it, but it's interesting that the Russians aren't standing still. They didn't take a complete season off. I know not everyone watched the competitions, but they
had them. Yeah.
They had them and they are moving forward. I think it's interesting that Eteri never built up her next generation of stars, right? So we don't know a lot about Petrosian or Akasheva as personalities, but I imagine we will in the future if they want to come back. I think there's still so much about Trusova and Kostornaia and all of these.
Yeah, they're sort of stuck now. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think a lot will become clear about whether we'll ever see Trusova compete again, what will happen with these other skaters. I think a lot of movement will happen over the next couple of months. So, but yeah, we do know that Jason Brown is going to compete for another year. And I think that as far as the US men are concerned, that's very important because the depth has just been abysmal.
Yeah, I mean, again, we really needed him this year.
Yeah, I think too, and you could see, how well some of the men did at nationals, but then for continents and worlds, completely falling off, just a mess. So I don't.
Yeah, it's always blown my mind how high they can peak at nationals. Because you think like, oh my gosh, look at all these amazing performances and you're so excited for what's next, but it must just take so much out of them.
Yes.
That it seems, they're always unable to reproduce it. So yeah, I was very excited to see that Jason was going to do that. Again, yes, we need him for US depth, all that sort of stuff. I need him as a fan.
Me too.
I need two programs that I'm going to look forward to.
Yes, and look, he may have been at the absolute peak of his ability he seems like he's at his absolute best. I hope he can do it another time, realizing that it may not be quite as good, or maybe it will be even better. So I'm curious to see what he and Rohim can come up with. It's exciting to see everyone start to put their programs together. We're going to start to see some of the Japanese skaters debut their programs in about a month, although that's when it's usually really rough at Fantasy on Ice over the summer, but starting to see all the pictures of people.
A lot of Shaylin programs, right? She must be on sale this week. Everyone is like going for Shaylin. Yeah.
Going for Shaylin, David Wilson, all those Canadians, Jeff Buttle, Sandra, working with Yelim Kim and David Wilson. That was exciting to see. I think we saw that Kazuki Tomono going to work with Jeff Buttle. I thought that's a really great.
Yeah, that would be very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. Cowrie is going to use Jeff Buttle for her short and Marie France for her free. Now, there was a lot of talk. Did they like the Marie France or they prefer the Rohim? I thought they were both great and both way better than her Benoit programs. But
I like both also. I far preferred the Rohim. Actually, though, I liked it more by a lot. I do think what happened is Rohim may have choreographed it like one notch beyond Cowrie's capability at this exact moment. So I think like she probably always felt like she was chasing the choreography or something in that program, but I loved the idea of what they could have come up with for this season. So I was disappointed he wasn't on the list.
Yeah, I was disappointed, but also excited to see her work with Jeff.
Yes.
I also loved the Marie France program. I didn't love the sound effects in the music edit when she did the jumps. I thought it became too much. But I thought the program was great. And I thought that it really matured her a lot as a skater. I thought as a piece, the short was more fun, right? But I thought both were great, although she struggled to get in gear with both programs throughout the season, but I think ultimately really grew as a skater. So I'm excited to see what she comes up with. But yeah, I was disappointed to see that she and Rohim didn't come up with something new.
Well,
but
I thought there was so much more to get out of that partnership.
Yeah, but also I love Jeff's work and what he has done with different skaters. So yeah, I think a lot of familiar names. And it looked like Hyen Lee was I saw a video of her working with Misha Gee or something that looked very outside of her comfort zone. Again, while the Russians are away, these other skaters are really moving forward. And what I really get is that the Korean skating and Japanese skating is really moving forward a great deal. So Yuma Kageyama is going to be back in full force. We saw him with Shaylin.
Yeah.
And it looked like they were touching up a program that they had done for this last season. So I'm excited to see him back because he would have been such a player this last year. So I think when you look at this next coming season, yes, Ilya Malinin will be in the forefront, but Yuma Kageyama, Shoma, and then Junhwa Cha, those are really exciting names, potential rivalries and things between that. So I think they'll really...
And again, you know, and then it makes that third Japanese man spot so interesting to see where that goes. Again, I'm curious to see what Kazuki's material will look like, because that could be a very interesting partnership.
Yes.
But Kalmura also going to Shaylin. And there was, I'm just curious how these different choreographers sort of approach someone that's in that sort of B group trying to really burst forward.
And I'm curious how they will judge components at Japanese nationals, right? I mean, obviously you have to land the jumps, right? But I think you see Kalmura with his ability, you see Soda Yamamoto trying all of these different quads, clips have been posted, but he doesn't have performance quality. Kalmura doesn't really have performance quality, but obviously they have
both flip and Lutz, I think, right?
Yeah. So it'll be an exciting next couple of months, I think, at least for Japanese skating, moving forward and really pushing the men's discipline. And then I think, and then we saw Camden getting a program with Marie-France, which seemed in the vein of like a Nathan Chen kind of style program, but hopefully he will keep that choreography in. But it looks like the USFS, you know, supporting him to train with Raphael and then work with Marie-France. There's an investment in Camden and the men, and it looks like he's taking a year off of college to train with Raphael. What do you think about that? I think,
you know, everyone talks about this balance. Can they do it? Can they not? I mean, he was just on the verge of something with that world's performance. Like, he was ready to go through this big open door. And of all the times, you know, then he had to live a more sort of balanced life. I think at this point, for me personally, I would have to decide, am I going all in and making a go for it? Or am I going to kind of let this fizzle away? And I think it's a testament to what he really wants to achieve, that he's like, no, I want to go all in. Because I think to have that sort of success that he must be dreaming of, I think you have to be all in.
Right, but okay. I don't mean to be rude, because I think he's a great talent. But looking at the US, I think Ilya Malinin, if healthy, has obviously a great ability to be national champion. And you also know that Jason Brown has a great chance to be on the world team for next year. And if you're going all in and there's other skaters coming up, and I think Camden is a phenomenal talent, but he has a history in his career of not being relatively consistent. What are you going all in for? And is the juice worth the squeeze at the end of the day, right? Like, are you going to get stars on ice out of this? Or are you going to get like, oh, good, you get to go to 4 continents?
Well, it tells me the amount of hope and optimism they must have had after that one World's performance. That they really think if they can sort this out, it's there for his taking. I mean, he could certainly make another world team. But
yeah, but like, what do you get out of that? He's putting Colombia on hold.
Yeah. Maybe an Olympics. Maybe that's the dream.
Yeah. But you also, I mean, think about it. Vincent could come back for the next Olympics, you know. Listen, stranger things have happened, right? Across.
Fair enough, Dave. Yeah, okay.
I don't know, but you start to think about how expensive skating is. Camden is not super young. And I don't know. I want to see him do well. I want to see this. I just think like, wow, you've like made it in life. You got into Colombia. Like, run with that, right? Yeah. He's just like, okay.
But if he's going to feel like he had unfinished business, that would like hang over you forever, I would think.
Yes. And I don't want anyone to feel that either. So
yeah. To know that like maybe he really did give it his all one season. and see what happened, then he would feel at least he made that attempt. But yeah, I always felt at that level, I don't know how I might stay motivated. It would be hard to have purpose for me.
Well, I think it's hard because you have to know. It's not like there's all these shows to do, right? And then you think about, am I going to get the Japanese shows? Well, how many spots are open, right? There's Jason, who's so unique. There's Ilya, who has, so many quads and so many titles or medals, right? So yeah, I don't know.
It was interesting. Actually, Anne was saying this to me once, where she was like, yeah, but the amount of world teams you have been on, all these sorts of things, add up in the accolades for when they start coaching.
Yes.
If he's on several world teams,
mm-hmm.
that elevates the status even that much more.
Of course.
So I don't know if it's just an investment in sort of the coaching stature even.
Yeah. But I think, he's at Columbia. He has other opportunities, maybe beyond coaching. Who knows? Not counting his titles or money or whatever. But yeah, I think, wow. I mean, it's just like a big decision. Like you've made it. And obviously skating helps these skaters get into those schools. And
yeah,
it's a lot. But, he may feel that he had that great Worlds. It was too much, maybe this last season, to balance everything and making that shot. Good, go for it. So, but yeah.
I don't know what would be.
Hopefully maybe he's old enough to put it together. He's older, he's had experience, he knows what he wants. So
he must feel he has unfinished business.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
Like Midori Ito at the Adult Worlds. She wants to do the double axel again.
Okay. It's fascinating because that whole Calgary era reappeared this week because we saw the Kurt Browning goodbye on Stars on Ice. We saw Midori in Obertsdorf, and then Debbie Thomas is still posting all of her sort of return to the ice little clips. It's interesting to see everyone from just Calgary reemerge one weekend. Yeah.
It is, and it's interesting to see what skaters can do at different ages, and you could tell Midori skating and the amount of jumps, then what that does to the body. Then you see what Yuka can do, and the fact of what a more balanced skater approach to everyone looks different, as they get older. Then Debbie, who's been off.
The same impact on those knees and hips all the time, like Midori. Yeah, 100%.
I think Midori just has this love of skating that just emits, right? That how do you judge that?
Yeah, she exudes the joy of skating. How are you not grinning ear to ear the whole time you're watching it?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I know that everybody it has to be amazing for her to go to Obertsdorf because everybody wants pictures with her. Everybody is going. And it's so funny is that my friend Tara McBurney, who's been on to cover Synchro before, she's done an open team that's it's not really adult skating, but it's for young people in Canada, right? But now that she's did this got asked to do an adult team that went to the Worlds, and she was crying during the performance. It was I think that it means a lot to people.
And to feel that love in the air. I mean, I know it sounds silly, but it's a real thing. You can sense that energy in an arena. And
everyone just talks about how beautiful Obertsdorf is with the animals and the mountains. So everyone loves it that goes there. So yeah, it was nice to see Midori. And I thought, Kurt looks incredible on the Stars on Ice tour. So. Yeah. Although someone tweeted today that it felt like they leaned into it so much that it was like he was dying. But, he has held the tour up in Canada. He still sells the tickets. Kurt and Elvis mean so much.
They deliver post their amateur career like nobody else. I was even thinking that as we were watching some of the clips that you were sharing of Kurt. And you just thought this is someone who takes these exhibition performances, these show programs so seriously and is so concerned about how they come across in an entertaining way. And that's what seems to be missing sometimes in these shows. And when that commitment is there, then it's a really fun thing to experience, I think.
So obviously I started watching skating right in the tail end of his amateur career and didn't have, videos of those performances until I was older. So I remember his pro performances and programs.
Brick House, I remember. Yeah, that was
Entertainment, the Snake program.
Yeah.
Although it's so funny is because one of the articles said that he had a very public divorce, and I actually don't think he had a very public divorce. I think it was a very quiet divorce, so much so that when
ballerina, wasn't he?
yes, and remember he did the program to her, and didn't he propose to her at a skating show, right? So all of that was so public, but the divorce wasn't. Right. And I think they remained very amicable and get along well. I think they lived very close to each other, or like.
But also, why was that like a major talking point in that article? Like,
well, I think because he got married to Alyssa Sisney, and people were so surprised of that and the age difference. But you know, they seem very happy, and they're always bike riding and doing all of these things outdoorsy together. And you see them hiking in those pictures. But I think it was a huge surprise to people who didn't really know that Kurt was divorced.
Yeah.
Because obviously, when skaters get married, it's big news, but it's not. It's not like Kim Kardashian getting divorced, or you're going to read about it. Right?
But yeah, their marriage kind of was under the radar a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Their relationship was under the radar. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought seeing him, he looked, I mean, he's still the best in the business to go watch a show. So yeah. It's funny watching stars when they do the group numbers, there are hints of the old stars. And it looks like a better version this year, but then you could still tell, like, when they skate in the block, some skaters you could see, like Alyssa has a lot of show experience and does all of those Ice Dance International shows. Like, she looks like a real pro. And then you see some of the skaters in the block and you're like, oh dear, we do not have this kind of show experience. But I think interesting to see Satiko on the Canadian tour, and Luna, and also them doing the US version. So I think, and the Canadian tour still gets good crowds.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just remember the US tour kind of goes to like unexpected places, doesn't it? Isn't that the one?
We don't go to all the main cities. So you, like, the nearest one for us is if we wanted to go to either Boston or Hershey.
Yeah.
So it's a drive, you know?
It's a drive for that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, also, we didn't talk about it, but Piper Gilles announced right after we posted the last show that she had been diagnosed with stage 1 ovarian cancer around December to January of this year. So then when she had her appendix out, it was really part of a much bigger issue. And she's spoken out on World Ovarian Cancer Day, I think on May 8th, and spoke about that. So I think just everyone, you know, she's now cancer-free, and I think everyone is, you know, so grateful to hear that. But obviously for someone who lost her mom to cancer, I mean, just incredible to
and I cannot imagine having to deal with that. I mean, the fact that they skated as well as they did and all this sort of stuff, it's mind-blowing to me.
Yeah, the whole thing is so mind-blowing. So so glad that she is well. And I mean, that's just, yeah, that was, so I think, such a surprise for everyone to hear. And wow.
Because she really had kept quiet about it. I truly thought she had just had an appendectomy. Yes. But wow, scary. Yeah.
Yeah. And then another surprise this week is that Sarah Hughes is running for Congress.
Twist.
No.
Why not?
You know what? There's a congressman who made up everything on his resume. Why not? Okay.
Yeah, she actually has the resume. She actually did win a gold medal. That sounds like something the other one would have made up.
I mean, at this point, the politics in our country are such a mess. Why not? You want to go sit in DC or do whatever as a congressman? Sure.
You want to be a young person in Congress. I think that's important.
Go do it.
Or youth. Yeah.
I mean, honestly,
is she Jersey or is she New York?
Oh, she's Long Island. She's Long Island.
Okay.
And I mean, but she's got more degrees than a thermometer. I mean, she has a law degree. She's got an undergrad from Yale. I think she's getting an MBA and an education degree at Stanford. She's doing 2 degrees right now at Stanford. So go do it. Those Hughes, they're achievers. So go do it. Yeah, why not? I just think,
because we had just seen Emily Hughes.
Yeah. Oh my God, we got to talk about that. I forgot that we didn't talk about that.
Yeah.
I brought Jonathan to Ice Theater, which is an experience, Jonathan.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. A nice one. It was, okay. So here's the thing. It's a gala performance. So it's a nice fundraiser event.
It's a big fundraiser for 4 performances a year like that.
Yeah, well, they still cost money, even though there's
Of course. But you just like, whenever we're doing it, I'm like, are we fundraising for the salaries of the people running it? Because it always looks like they never have enough rehearsal time, right?
It's very possible you are.
And like, whenever we go to ice theater, the solos are always magnificent. Okay, we saw Liz Schmidt and Daniil. They had the Lorna Brown program. It was phenomenal. They brought in Jason, who was fantastic. They brought in Roheen, which if you've ever seen Roheen live, it's an experience, and he skated to This Bitter Earth in a costume that was...
He was feeling it.
He really was. It was incredible. And, you know, it's an experience to watch Roheen. Like, it's not, it's very different than watching Kurt Browning, okay? It's
so committed. So that even if it is not my brand or it's not really something I completely understand, his complete commitment to it completely sells it.
One of the great skaters of all time. One of the great show skaters.
Yeah. And as it was mentioned when we were there, just the right time. He knew just the amount of time that like something like that could hold your interest, and then he ended it.
Mm-hmm.
This is perfect. This is perfect. But what I also, I mean, this is what I was trying to get at. I think some people misunderstood what I was trying to say in one of the previous shows about the quote unquote dumpy rinks. I wasn't like trying to insult rinks anywhere, but I just mean that.
I knew what you meant, Jonathan. This is an era where people like to take offense to everything.
Yeah,
okay.
I would not say, just in general, even at Ice Theater of New York, I was like, this.
No, Ice Theater of New York is ridiculous because everyone wanted to go because Jason got honored, right? Yeah. And his agent was basically like, you're going, according to other people, and had to perform on his one day off from tour, right? Amazing that he was there doing this.
Taking it beautifully and committed and was full energy. Yeah.
Yes, full energy. You could pay a lot of money to sit and eat dinner with him. But the thing is, Ice Theater is all about this very hoity-toity gala that happens after. Okay, like Sue Murray came decked like she was going to the Metropolitan Opera. Okay, like, old skating glamour. She looked great. Okay, when we walked in, but the thing is that they keep the boards up in the Chelsea Piers ring, which is always like for this kind of a gala and the show, right? Not only that, but they have the hockey net up too, right? And then now they want people to come because they advertise, but they really want you to go and spend $1,000 to go eat dinner with ISU of New York, which
they need the dinner ticket more than the actual ticket to the show. Yeah.
Right. So, but now if you want to go see the show, you can sit like in the corners, right, of the rink.
Which we did.
Right, yes. So like there's the glass, there's the hockey net, you're in the corner and you're watching like what was the number with the 3 girls and the like in the bed sheet program? I mean, it's
and that girl was the. Do you remember that ice dance team at nationals? That
Karina Mantra. Yeah.
See her again, actually. Well, you know, here's the thing.
She's also an Ice Dance International. I mean, she's a really great show skater.
Okay. Well, you know, always with these things, just like if you go to like some modern dance company thing, some of them are going to just be wackadoodle and I'm not going to understand them, but some of them are worth it. Like there was one of the, is it Mauro Bruni, like group program where they were doing just these incredible shapes and patterns. And I was like, this is interesting to me. But again, I want it to be rehearsed like a production for a month. And I want to see it like in more of a theater type setting where there is production value. And I don't mean, this is not to slam them because I know it's all about budget and these sorts of things, just in general, instead of just a follow spot, instead of, you know what I mean, just putting a black drape over some of the advertisements. I mean, like put it in a theater. Give me the Sonia Henny, like Belita experience.
Plus it was like $50 for a 45-minute show where you're sitting in the corner. It's like, you start to be like, okay, this is a lot. I always leave with like, it's an interesting mix of people, right? Like the people watching alone at this show there's such a diverse.
Well, and again, it's just inherently funny that there are people in gowns sitting on bleachers.
Yes.
That's why, again, I'm all about that Landover experience where I think it felt much more like going to the opera where you're in your tuxes and your gowns and you're in regular.
And who was sitting like 3 people over from us? Surya Bonali.
Because why not?
Why not? Okay.
Yeah.
Why wasn't she performing? I would watch that. Okay. I mean,
you should have pushed her out there. Yeah. Do it.
It's such a, yeah, it always like, it's like brilliant conceptually, but under rehearsed always, because
and maybe some of the bigger moments. I mean, again, like Liz and
you're going to want to go see it. Doug Webster, who used to run Ice Theater, runs Ice Dance International. That is like a rehearsed show on a budget. So that's why I said, like, I think having it at Chelsea Piers is always more expensive, right? So they get more rehearsal with Ice Dance International, and it's maybe the skating is a little bit more substantive. It always feels like Ice Theater is all about who they can bring in to honor to then have a dinner, right? But like they always like honor really random people that are all about selling tickets to the dinner. Like, okay, one year they honored Nancy Kerrigan. Another year, Christy Yamaguchi. I don't picture, when I think of Ice Theater, I think of like the girl with the wings, right? Who's doing the sonar sounds.
Although Jason, to me, though, would be a fit for this sort of. Yeah.
But like sometimes it's random, right? Like Brian Orser was honored by Ice Theater, and I'm sure he supports Ice Theater and thinks it's great. And that's all about selling tickets. But I don't think of Brian Orser like dangling from a hoop.
Right.
With sonar sounds on. Like these are the kinds of things that you see at Ice Theater, right? Like,
yeah.
You know, Roheen being honored at Ice Theater, yes. Okay, I think that Roheen could hang from the hoop. I think he could, you know, skate with the hoop. I think he could spin with like yes, I understand that.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
You know, I think he could skate with a bed sheet, right? I think he could. Were they all three attached to the sheet? Yes.
Yeah. And I thought to myself, like, I'd be the one that's like, sorry, girls, I have to go to the bathroom before we go on. Yeah, I don't know how they even rehearsed to put on their skates with that.
Are you hooked in? Like, again, like it's always.
It was interesting. It was interesting.
You know what it is? It's like there's a vibe of it when they're like, remember in high school when people were like in the art club, and the people that would do the fall drama, but not the musical. Like, it's like those people, like the serious actors, the thespians, you know.
The true artists, the edgy artists, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And not even just like the fall play, the people that just did like the scene work, you know, when they do those things. Yes.
Yep, I do know.
You know, when I was in college, okay, you know, I went to Ithaca College, a very liberal arts school. And you know, I got asked out to go to a film thing at the end of the year, right? You know, there are some stereotypes about people doing drugs at liberal arts colleges, okay? I once saw a film, Jonathan, where it was a snare drum in the middle of a field, and there was just like a buzzer going on, and it was just like, and we just like watched the snare drum in the middle of the field for minutes. It felt like hours. And then at the end of it, guy in a costume that was dressed up ran, and like he was just as like an animal, like one of the people that would like greet you at an amusement park, ran and just toppled it. That was that guy's like project for film class. I don't know what
someone's undergraduate degree. Yeah.
You know, Ice Theater kind of feels like the skating version of that from time to time. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll buy it. I mean, here's the thing, like, if they did stuff like that often and it felt more like going to a show, I would be inclined to go.
Yes.
But I kind of want the whole elevated experience. It's a shame. I wish like some Baz Luhrmann type or something would do like some huge Moulin Rouge ice show or something on Broadway, and just really go for it, because I think there's.
But it is in a skating rink. So all is like, you know, when you're in a skating rink all the time, like you get kind of immune to the smell. And Jonathan Byer wasn't, right? So we walk in and he's like, it smells of feet. And once you said it, it was all I could think of. Right? Yeah.
Again, I understand, but like everyone's in their gowns, everyone's dressed up, and we just like get up to the top of the stairs and it's choking like a dirty sock smell. And I was like, wow, this is a unique cultural experience. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Talk to my Congresswoman Sarah Hughes about that. Yeah.
You talk to Sarah. Listen, they're like some of the biggest donors every year. So the Hughes family. Emily was there. Yeah.
Yeah. Received like the alumni award or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, it's such New York, New Jersey skating such a hodgepodge of people that you
that's what's really interesting to me. Like even more than when you go to like a Skate America or something like that, was just the diverse groups of personalities that were there.
And I always wonder what everybody is thinking when we're sitting there. Like,
yeah, I agree. I wonder that as well.
Like,
I was just like, how do I like not hurt my back trying to like sit on this bleacher?
Because and we're all like you know, when you're in the bleachers, you're all like stuffed in, and you're like, is Surya enjoying the hoop? Is she enjoying like what's happening here? I just it's a lot. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
There was a backflip in there.
Oh yeah. Yes. Wait, weren't we nervous that someone's gonna hurt themselves at one point?
That was the backflip. Yeah.
Okay. Yes. Okay.
That landed pretty directly in front of us, and maybe not the cleanest of landings.
It's okay. You know what? But seeing Jason in person do his short program, phenomenal.
And that close, you know what I mean? The minute he just comes out, the inherent speed and glide, even as he adapts to that rank, it's just remarkable.
Now, Rohin's costume, was that like 70% mesh? Would you say? Like what percentage was mesh?
Much higher. There was like one red strip. It was like a sash. Like
okay.
Miss Ice Theater New York or something like that.
He looked great. Okay. It was just
the red mesh. I mean, he has a body for days. And like the way he moves.
He did the back outside spiral to the forward inside spiral like you've never seen before. Okay. Like incredible.
Remarkable. I mean, that's also someone you're like, you go do solo dance. Let's really get this thing off the ground.
Yeah, they didn't even announce when the competitions are going to be now. It's maybe going to be in the fall. What's going on, Sean Redstad? Okay,
we're excited by it. We want it to happen. And we've got a growing list of people we want to see compete in it.
Did you read that Julin said that the 80s dance needs to be a little bit LGBT in order to be effective?
I think that's what they really like now, is for things to be gay. And I was like, you know, spoiler alert, in the United States, the 80s wasn't the best time for the gay community. I don't
No. But it was an interesting time in music and a lot of fun, right?
That is such a twit. Like, what is the point of that comment? But however, the part, unfortunately, I did agree with him on is that it still seems very vague what they mean by all of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, apparently they're going to have to do the pattern dance, but it's going to be split between the partners. So one partner has to be doing the pattern dance steps, but it can go back and forth between.
Oh.
Sounds like a mess, right? To me, I
choreograph whatever you want for the other partner while they're doing the pattern.
You know, really unclear. I'm like very, you know, and the rules don't even like formally get published and finalized. Is
that clear for all those people that are? I mean, we know so many people are already announcing their full programs, and these poor ice dancers don't even understand what's required of them yet.
I know, and I had a dream that I was yelling at Tim Coletto about his programs, but I forget what his free dance was in my dream.
Yeah, okay.
No, I really had a dream that I was very upset with Tim Coletto about his performances. It felt very. You ever have those dreams that feel really real? And
the worst are when I have dreams where I've like accomplished something, only then to wake up and realize that I have not.
Yeah. Well, because you know that they're doing the Ghostbusters for their rhythm dance. Right. That's how I felt in my dream. Okay. That's real. I read that on Twitter, but I didn't even have the dream that night. I had the dream like weeks later.
You know, here's the thing. Actually, I get why someone would think it could be sort of ironically cute. What makes me nervous are the costumes.
Well, how about their programs last year? I just wasn't a fan.
It's the Lewis and Gibson announcement that I will be most interested in, I think.
You mean the Lila and Lewis announcement?
Sorry.
I know, because they pretty much treat every year like it's the 80s.
Yeah. I think, but again, I cannot.
And Olivia Smart, you know, her partner, I watched some of those Tim Deek YouTube vlogs. He seems like a real character.
A wild energy. Yeah.
I don't know how this is going to go. A wild energy. And I think it's interesting. There was a viewer who's a TSL Live viewer who was like messaging me, trying to ask me why Australia isn't as successful as the US, because they have a lot of rinks. I said, they have maybe 20 rinks in Australia. That's not a lot, right? For a country as big as the US. Now you think about it, for them, it is more worthwhile for Olivia, who's British, and Tim, who's German, to represent Spain, to be the #1 team in Spain, where they could maybe be with a more powerful federation, the British Federation, and because then they could have 2 teams, right? They could have 2 teams back and forth, and that's a federation that has more history than the Spanish Federation. And you think about it, it would be so much better for British skating if they represented the UK, but obviously you don't want to be slotted behind someone else in the politics of ice dance, and it would take so many years to get to be #1, but they wouldn't be ahead of Violet and Lewis anyway. But then you think about their school, maybe it's better to have more judges than fewer. What a mess, okay? What?
Well, why did I think they were going to try for Germany? And then, so the fact that they're going to represent Spain sort of confused me when I read that.
I think my coach thought that they would go and represent Germany. I thought Spain.
Yeah, that sort of seemed to be what we all thought was going to happen. And then when it was announced about Spain, I was like, oh, okay.
Although I will say, I've been uploading a lot of old footage, and I've been moving a lot of footage from the YouTube channel to, for a bunch of copyright reasons and different things, moving it, but also things get blocked over the years. So even like old this and that episodes, I'm moving them. If you subscribe to the $5 tier, you'll have access to everything on Patreon, but I've been building it on a Google Drive. And then also I got a new converter. So I have so many boxes of footage. But anyway, one of the things that I had never seen was in 1976, when Diane Duluth was one of the top 2 contenders for the Olympics. She was against Dorothy Hamill. Now they were very clear on ABC that these are 2 Americans going for the Olympic title, right? But she has Dutch citizenship. And you could just tell that the other commentator thought that this was completely bonkers and ridiculous, right? And he's like, do you think that the US judge is going to score you lower? Because you're basically like a traitor, right? And you have basically like fake citizenship. This is with their attitude, right? And Dick had the best response to it. He's like, I don't care what country she represents. It's about the skating. And that's how I feel at a point. Like, I'm always excited to see this is like a vehicle to see more top skaters, but it does get ridiculous. Like, I think, but they were in 1976, they were talking about how ridiculous the different nationalities and everything was. So, right. But yes.
You've always felt that way. Yeah.
Like, they really went and they were interviewing her on the day between the short and the long, and the guy just kept hammering her with questions about
and it was like, wow, I'm just trying to skate. Like, get out of here.
But yeah, it was just so strange to be that they were having the same conversation in 1976 that we have now, and yet nothing has changed.
No. And the same thing, my favorite is after every Olympics when they're like, well, this was a controversial result. This has never been controversial before. You're really going to lose fans. When we went back and judged like 1980, we can talk about any year. It is always the same story that plays out. Mm-hmm. That's why we keep coming back to it. Yeah.
So Jenny and I are interviewing someone next week, one of her former coaches. Jonathan Byer may have said something shady because Mary Scotfold was upset by one of your comments. I didn't know that Mary was watching. Who knew? Does she know that like the last line on this and that is like in her?
What did I say?
I don't even know, but Mary was like, that other guy said something about my choreography. Who knows? It was probably a Nancy comment. Who knows?
I mean, yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. I believe it.
And I was like, opera singers, they have hoity-toity taste.
We've grown, There is that Neil Diamond musical on right now. I bet she's going.
So, okay, uploading old footage. That one instrumental version of Dear Father that Nancy skated to, right? About 6 months ago, I found Paul skated to it in 1990 as a show program. Terry Kubica, who is the actual guy that the backflip is banned over because he actually looked like he was going to die at the end of his 5-minute program when you watch him pull out that backflip at the end. And Evie makes a joke in his fluff piece from 76 about breaking his neck, which Evie, actually did hit his head doing a backflip in the shows. and has a plate in his head that or had a plate in his head that would go off at every metal detector, because Evie was a show skater. He had these twin older sisters who were huge stars of the ice follies, and Evie joined them. He did a backflip, like hit his head, was in the hospital, had a plate in his head, but then taught it to Terry Kubica, who did it at the end of 5 minutes. It looked
always very close.
And then the ISU banned it. So all of those things that you see about Syria, not actually true, although hers was the best backflip I've ever seen in my life.
Yes, no one ever denied that. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, there's going to be a reality show this summer with Rory Flack and a synchro team who is and it's all skaters of color in the DC area skating. So we'll have something to watch. She also had a killer backflip.
Yes, she did. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, I've been watching this reality show on Bravo,
which again used to be a network that only aired opera. I'm just saying.
Well, now they have a reality show about women who hire professional ballroom dance partners and compete against each other, and it has like adult skating energy.
Yes, but how could it not? Oh my gosh, it's like the same thing.
And I watch it, and I'm like, obviously horrified, and then another part of me is like, I could ballroom dance. It's like,
yeah, you're available for hire.
Like, it's always women hiring these pro men, and I'm like, did they do it in reverse? Do I need to be doing this? Like,
is this my new passion? That's funny.
Wild. Okay. And it's like a mix of like Real Housewives, but like the competitive aspect of this seems real, and they're rehearsing with people, and you're like, wait, that's the person from Dancing with the Stars. Wait, I know that person. Oh, okay. Wild. All right. Just, it's called Dancing Queens. It's on Bravo. I think it's on Wednesday. I watched, but you could watch the reruns on Peacock if you still have it for skating. And you know,
where's the Rory Flack one supposed to be?
I think that's going to be on WeTV. So I don't know. All those cable networks.
We're defining that. Yeah. Okay.
Whatever. You know what? It starts in July.
We'll find it.
We'll find it.
Yeah.
You know what? Dancing Queens, if you've ever been an adult skater, the drama, it seems so similar, okay? And just the competitiveness among the intensity among these, and I mean, it's as competitive as like Michael Rubke at the Adult Nationals, okay? He has a rival of his own, and that is something. Yes, all right, yeah.
Amazing.
Incredible. All right, go watch Dancing Queens, and you'll just be like, oh wow, oh.
There it is. There it is.
There it is. All right. The national sexy.